Thank you for coming. Some new faces, well, kind of new. And I'll say this is guaranteed to be a great talk because I prepared absolutely nothing for it. And those are usually the best ones. And I have not really slept in a month. I've been sleeping more than I think most people in my position do. As some of you guys know, and some of you don't know, I have a brand new baby girl. She was born a month ago on the 18th. Her name is Alora. She's absolutely everything. My life is completely different. It was like I had an amazing life, the best life, absolutely the best life. And now my life is also the best life. It's just totally different. It was like the best like color green, and now it's like the best color blue. It's just a completely different experience, but still amazing. And it includes very little sleep, but again, more than I should be getting. My mother-in-law has been here for a month, and she's been helping us. Grace's mom is incredible. She didn't know that she was such a good cook, but she is cooking so much amazing traditional Chinese food. I'm eating better than I ever have in my entire life. I'm eating so much. She's making all this stuff that is designed to like improve lactation and like help feed the baby and help feed the mom and all that stuff, and I'm just eating it all too, and it's really great. I'm not doing much of that side of the work, but I am changing lots of diapers, which I really enjoy. I wrote a little bit about this for the last newsletter, and I really had this fear that I was not going to enjoy changing diapers because I don't like getting my hands dirty. I don't particularly like bad smells. I feel like I heard about this thing. There are people called super smellers that have like a super acute sense of smell, and I am positive that that is me. And yet, I have truly enjoyed changing diapers. It has been such a weird, wild journey. So I'm going to do my best to kind of boil down my thoughts and my experience and frame it in a way that's helpful for other people. Let's go back to sleep, because the sleep has been the biggest change besides having another human being always there, and besides having like what feels like a huge chunk of my heart just over here existing in a different person. Just not sleeping as much has really been a big change. And this is reminding me of the book that Hudson gave me as a gift. Was it from you or from your mom? From you. Well, you gave me this book, and I started reading it 2 days ago. The book is called Happy Sleep Habits, Happy Child, something like that. Something like that. And let me tell you, this book worked so well to put me to sleep. I immediately took a great nap, and but I'm reading some great stuff, and I will eventually learn how to put it into practice. But I have specifically designed my life to have meditation, to have martial arts, to have great people who I love in it, and to have lots of sleep. I have generally had between like 8 and 9 hours of sleep almost every night for the last like 20 years. And that is absolutely impossible now. And even when I am sleeping, my eyes are closed, I'm still not really asleep, because there's always this chance that I'm going to hear her cry and just give a little whimper, and I immediately wake up, and that tells me that I was never really sleeping. So I think even though I'm technically laying down with my eyes closed for like 6 to 7 hours, I'm probably actually sleeping like 4 hours or 3 hours a night. And that puts a real stress on my body, and that's not even speaking to the stress that my wife is undergoing. I think my mother-in-law is actually getting the least amount of sleep of all of us, but she is just like a tank. She's like so full of energy and amazing. But for me, I started getting these spots on my hands, and I was like, what did I grab like a weird plant? Am I allergic to the delicious food that I'm eating right now? Or like, what is it? And we finally found out that I have gotten like stress-induced eczema, and the skin on my hands just started melting. This is what having a baby has done to me. I'm melting from the stress of it, and I'm not having like really stressful thoughts. It's literally just a lack of sleep. And so I've given a talk all about the importance of sleep. I'll just hit this point for all of you. Whether you have a baby or not, it is so important that we sleep. And even if you're just thinking about your meditation practice, which is a big part of the reason why we're here, listening to this talk. Like, this is all about meditation. If you're not sleeping well, you're probably not going to meditate well, and vice versa. Of course, meditation can really help with your sleep. I will say that it has been really incredible to see that even though there's basically nothing going on in my day, it is so easy to let my disciplines kind of slide. Of course, the amount of sleep, the meditation, I'm still meditating every day, but it's not quite the same because at any moment I'm like jumping to go take care of something. And I had this time when I first moved to LA, when I was opening up the school, and I had the same thing. I had like this, stress-induced stuff, and I was so blown away by it because I thought, I'm not really having stressful thoughts. Like, I'm generally just kind of happy throughout the day. I'm feeling pretty good, but I realized that it must have actually been the lack of sleep that I had with this weird schedule that I was going through. So, sleep. If I have one thing that I've learned and one piece of advice that I can give to anybody that comes from this whole experience, it is the importance of sleep. And so now I've started doing this thing where I'm going to go out every morning and look at the sky in the direction of the sun, because it's supposed to help you kind of regulate your cortisol level and regulate your sleep, and we'll see how that works. I'll let you know in another month if I'm actually sleeping better. It has been so interesting kind of getting for the first time in the mind of a child. As I was joking before we started the recording, like, yes, I feel like I have the mind of a baby right now because I am so unable to have cogent thoughts. You guys are getting so much more from me right now than I have been able to muster for the last month. But to kind of experience what is in the mind of a baby is so interesting. I talked a lot in my newsletter about how babies can really be a great example of Zen because they're so present, they're in the moment like nothing else. I love this example that I've given for years, which is if you give a baby a toy to play with and they're so enthralled, it's the most boring thing. It's like a wooden block. My baby's not at this point yet. Alora has she can't even look in a direction for more than 2 seconds at a time. There are no toys that she's paying attention to, but I've seen this happen with babies. There's a baby and you give it a wooden block and it's like the most boring thing that you can imagine, but the baby is so enthralled by this thing. It's the most incredible thing that the baby has ever seen. And then it's time for the baby to move on to something else. You give the baby your finger and it's like, oh, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And the block doesn't exist. It never existed. It's just all what's happening right now. And then the next thing, it's time to eat and it's like, oh, your finger never existed. The milk is the most important, most incredible thing. And she is really teaching me that, like, babies are so amazing at being in the present and making it clear that what they want is not what's happening right now. She does not necessarily know what she wants, but she knows that this is not it. And she's crying so loudly. And then when she gets what she wants, it's like she's totally quiet. She gets the bottle, and then she's completely happy. And it's like she wasn't just screaming her guts out. And then she's immediately just asleep. And I was telling you before this class, the first couple of nights, we were totally unable to get her to sleep. She was just crying all night long. And we're like, I'm sure that we're doing something wrong. We don't know what it is. Like, she is definitely telling us that she needs something. And they told us at the hospital, you got to feed her every 2 or 3 hours. We're feeding her, but we're not feeding her enough. We discover this days later, and so we finally start feeding her enough, and she stops crying basically completely, and she's just like happy. And it reminded me of this part of the book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and I like to reference this sometimes. This book has so much genius stuff in it, but the one of the funniest things is Socrates says, basically, I'm going to paraphrase this, he's like, all humans are stupid, and it's because we want something, and when we don't get what we want, we're unhappy. And then even when we do get what we want, we're unhappy, because then we're thinking about the next thing. And that's not what a baby does, generally speaking. She gets what she wants, and she is so happy. She's not thinking about how she was just upset. This is what we do, right? We get into, it's not like I'm upset about what's happening now. It's like, I'm upset. I'm just upset, and I'm going to stay upset, and I have a right to be upset. She doesn't think any of that stuff. She's just upset when something is not going her way, and then when it goes her way, she's totally happy. And she lets go of that state of being upset so immediately. It's brilliant. And I think this is something that we can all learn from. Of course, we cannot be babies, and it's like the only thing that matters to us is, are we getting enough sleep and are we eating enough? And I've remarked this multiple times to people over the last month. It's like, what an incredible stage in your life to be in, where the most important things, the only things that anybody is judging you on, is, are you sleeping enough and are you eating enough? That would be such an amazing life. Unfortunately, it cannot happen for us. But it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. We make it like, I got to be making this much money. I got to have these kind of friends. I got to drive this kind of car. I got to be, learning X, Y, Z. I got to be in this kind of shape and all that stuff. It probably doesn't have to be that complicated. If we can really kind of boil down what we need, or what we think we need, or what we desire, to something that's much more manageable, like, am I sleeping enough? Am I eating? Maybe not enough, but like the right kind of food. Maybe we'll throw in like some exercise. I mean, that's great. That's gold. If we can be happy with that simple kind of life, we'll be so much happier. And this is, I think, the crux of meditation on some level, is like, it's teaching us that all we really need is the breath. Sometimes Alora forgets to breathe. She does this actually all the time. She is eating, and she's just eating, and then she's like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to breathe, and she like spits out the bottle and starts to breathe, or she'll like spit up. And sometimes she'll just be laying there like asleep, and she'll just like stop breathing, and then she'll like cough herself awake, and I'm like watching her so intently the whole time, and she is totally safe, so I'm told. But we figured out how to breathe. But for her, because she forgets how to breathe sometimes, I think breath is still really exciting. For us, breathing is just not as exciting. Breathing is like, this is a thing I do all the time. I'm totally unaware of it. I'm unconscious of it. But meditation really makes us fall in love with the breath again and become so intensely aware of it. And that is something that, again, kind of jives with this idea of having a simple life. Like, all we really need to do is breathe in this moment. In meditation, what we're learning, or what we're trying to rediscover, is all we really need is this breath. And all that really matters to us right now is this breath, not all the thoughts that we're trying to have, and all the things that we're trying to accomplish in life, and all the, the desires that are unmet, and the fears that we have going forward, and embarrassments about what we've done in the past. It's literally just a breath. And if we can really try to kind of just turn our meditation to that, the exploration of this moment, this breath, nothing else really matters, that could be one of the best things that we get out of our meditation. I'm also reminded of the idea, Maisifu likes to talk about the importance of meditating even when things are going really well, because people think like, oh, my life is in shambles, I'm stressed out like crazy, now I got to start meditating. It's not too late, but it's late. You should have really done it earlier. And he describes it like planning for a fire when your house is burning down. Like, you should have really installed the sprinklers or the alarm before the fire was lit. And so I'm not going to claim to be any kind of genius at being a father. I'm brand new. I have no idea what I'm doing at all. But relatively calm. When she starts crying, of course, the first couple of times I was like, oh my God, is she dying? Like, because she sounds like she's dying. She sounds like she's getting her arms sawn off of her. She's crying so loudly. She starts to cry, and she starts at like a 10 out of 10, and then she goes louder than that, and she gets to the point where she is so hoarse from crying that she's like, huh? It's like sound stops coming out of her. And that used to really get me. But now I'm a pro. It's been a month, so I really know what I'm doing. So now, and I think for sure meditation and the kind of training that I've done for myself over the last 25 years is really coming to play. Who knows what kind of mess I would be if I didn't have that? And I'm a mess enough as it is, but it would be a real disaster, I feel like, without that. And so I'm just really present to that and grateful for the practice that I've had and how it is allowing me to keep some level of sanity and to kind of be that for the rest of my family too. Of course, my daughter, who just like, sometimes she just needs to be like squeezed. She just wants to know that somebody is there. And that's a bare minimum of what I can do, is just kind of hold her and not drop her. But to also feel like, I feel like babies can definitely tell when you're nervous or when you feel confident. And in the beginning, I definitely felt nervous. And then when I'd be changing her diaper, I'd be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, she's screaming, crying the entire time. We're like, is it because my hands are cold? What's happening? I'm pretty sure it's because I was just like flailing. I was trying to change her diaper. And now with a sure hand, whether I'm holding her, changing her diaper, or feeding her, whatever, she can tell. She's like, I'm okay. I'm maybe not going to die right now. And to be able to be that also for my wife. And I think that my mother-in-law is far better at this than I am, maybe than I will ever be, because she's had 3 daughters. And her daughters, all 3 of them, have huge personalities. So I think that Alora is like the biggest diva and the most dramatic person ever. But I'm sure that I'm not even close. And like when she's a teenager, it's going to be a real rude awakening for me. But Mama Lau, Popo now, we call her Grandma. She is just like so. First of all, she is not the biggest woman. Some of you guys have met her. She practices Tai Chi here sometimes. She's like about as thick as my pinky, but she's got that way about her. She's a doctor and has raised 3 children and just really knows. And when she holds the baby just immediately goes like, oh, everything's okay. I know that I'm all right. And that's what I'm aspiring to. Someday I'll get there. When I'm middle-aged doctor, Asian woman, then she'll definitely listen to me. She'll stop being so worried. But it is really amazing to see, and she and I, this is one of the joys that we have of her being there. She and I get to practice Tai Chi a lot together. We'll do partner form a lot, and I'm teaching her Tai Chi sword right now because she's at that point in Tai Chi, and it's really fun to do that. But to have somebody else in the house who also gets the importance of like being calm and being that kind of presence is so useful. But she definitely, I think making the food is much more important. So I'm really the 4th most important person in the house. And I feel, as I was describing it before, I feel like I'm doing so much. I feel like what I'm doing is taking so much from me and is like everything that I can possibly muster. And still, of course, Alora is the most important. Whenever she opens her mouth, everything else like comes to a screeching halt. My wife, she's really feeding. She's creating the food. She's like the stronger, I think, emotional link for Alora and all that. And then so that's the first 2. And then my mother-in-law, who's making the food and helping us stay calm and sane and all that. And then there's me, and I am definitely the least important link, the weakest link on some levels, but. It is a really magical kind of dance that all of us are doing. And she was just telling me, my mother-in-law was just talking about how great it feels to be part of this team that we've kind of created. And we never kind of set out to be like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, this is how we're going to work together, this is how we're going to communicate. I think we just kind of naturally fell into this. And I'm sure part of it is the intensity of what is required from us in the moment. And this is like they say, the divine or God or the universe only throws at you what it thinks that you can handle. And I believe that. And I believe that there are times where we totally don't believe that, but it's like time to step up no matter what. This is like one of those times. You get a screaming baby. You got this thing that is so frail that you really have to step up and just magically become a bigger, better version of yourself. It just kind of happens. It's not like I'm so great. It's like I'm pretty sure that most people just end up doing the same thing, and it's just, whether it's part of our evolution or just like what is required of us in the moment. But it's kind of like some of you guys in Tai Chi know pushing hands. It's like being a great partner in the dojo where you're really listening for sometimes what is unsaid. You're reading the body language of the other person. You're really aware of what's going on kind of beneath the surface. You're able to set your own ego aside and just kind of be there present with whatever is going on with somebody else. This is really what is necessary for us as martial artists. If it's all about us and I make it all about me winning or losing, then of course I'm more likely to hurt my partners. I'm much less likely to learn from my partners. Nobody's having a great experience. But as a great partner, setting all that stuff aside, setting aside the ego and just being present with whatever is happening right now is just the greatest gift that you can give to somebody. And so my mother-in-law was talking about how great it feels to be part of this team where we're all just we're not assuming that anybody else is going to pick up the slack. We're not, getting into it where we're fighting with each other. Of course, we have like subtle disagreements and we'll just immediately say what needs to be said. And that is really the way that it should be in any great partnership. You don't like hold on to stuff. You don't be like, okay, she said this thing and I'm going to remember that. And then 10 years from now, we'll be in an argument and I'll pull it out and I'll be like, remember when you said this terrible thing to me? It's just like when something needs to get said, you just say it. And then you're not holding on to all this baggage. So this is, I think, also something that relates very much to our meditation practice is just letting go of what we've been holding on to in the moment. We're just with the breath and the thought comes up and we think this is the thing that I have to worry about, this is the thing that I have to get done after class, whatever, just let it go. And if it is something truly important that needs to get said or needs to get done, sitting and stressing about it during meditation is not going to be helpful. It'll be there for us when we're done. When our meditation is done, we'll open our eyes and then we'll remember, oh yeah, I've got that thing that needs to get done. I've got that conversation I need to have. I've got that thing at work that needs to be handled, whatever. And now I'm in a better way, I'm in a better kind of state of mind to handle it. If something is so important, it'll come back to us. And I think that having a baby just helps to zero in on that whole idea that all the things that we really think are so important are just not important at all. I mean, my life was filled with things that I was sure was important, and now it's like literally, this is the only thing that actually matters. And I love teaching martial arts. I'll be back more often, don't worry. There's nothing that will ever take me away from this except for having a brand new baby at home. If I'm not there, she doesn't get fed, whatever. But it's just so funny and something that I think we should all try to continue to remind ourselves of. Just like look in the mirror and laugh at yourself sometimes about the things that you think are so important and like the concerns and the interpersonal garbage and like all of it is just nonsense. When it really comes down to it, it's like this breath. Am I breathing? Yes. Check. Great. Am I sleeping enough? Yes. Am I eating? Great. And then this person, this moment, whether it's a tiny baby or somebody else who we have a relationship with, or just somebody that you're passing, in this moment, in this day, I feel like there are so many of these moments that we just pass by because we are in our own head thinking about something else that we think is important and it's just not. So I'm finally done talking. I had a lot of other stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I forgot it all because my brain is not with us. That's great. That's what makes for a great meditation talk and a great meditation. So when we sit, just be, in a good posture with your breath. And remember that all of the other things that keep popping into your head, it's just not that important. You might feel like you need to cry until you go hoarse, but really it's just okay. We're all here together and we're going to get through this. Sit comfortably. I'll remind you guys of posture. So there are many different ways of sitting. I like to sit seiza, sitting cross-legged is great. However, you can do it with your back straight, your hands are together or separate, usually palms up at the hips. And you want your shoulders rolled back and relaxed, the chin parallel to the ground. Close eyes. So there are many different styles of meditation. In this style, we just have the eyes closed and slightly raised up. And you can think of it as the third eye or the point between your eyebrows. Gently raising your eyes kind of helps you to associate this position of your body and be in this moment in a raised consciousness rather than having the eyes straight ahead or lowered, which has us in a different state of consciousness. This raised gaze helps us be in this present moment. And just relax and watch the breath. So you don't have to stop breathing like an infant to understand the importance of the breath. Try to be not excited. We're not trying to be excited in meditation, really, but so absorbed by the sensation of the breath. It is what gives us life. It is the only thing that truly matters in this moment. And just allow the sensation of your breath to carry your consciousness, to absorb your thoughts, your attention. And when your mind wanders, just remind yourself that that is okay. That is what your brain is designed to do, is to have thoughts. You don't need to beat yourself up. Just label it as a thought without judging the thought, without judging yourself, and then you can just let it go, like you're letting go of that wood block or you're letting go of that finger, like it never existed. And you come back to the breath as many times as it takes.